Hi, I'm Tim Gunn, and this
Marta
is...
Debayle.
Hi, Martha.
Fashion,
Branding.
fitting is everything.
It is. How do you become the next great global brand?
How are you, Tim?
It's an honor to be with you.
It's an honor to have you. You have no idea what big of a fan I am, and I'll explain to you why. So, Tim Gunn está con nosotros, además de ser un extraordinario asesor de imagen, host de televisión, autor bestseller, un ícono de la moda americana. Seguramente se acuerdan porque lo han visto en programas increíbles como Project Runway, últimamente en el nuevo que hizo con Amazon que se llama Making the Cut. Tiene unos libros espectaculares como Gunn's Golden Rules, Life's Little Lessons for Making It Work. Y es un placer hablar con él porque ahorita voy a hablar de algo que yo le copié a él, que él no sabe que yo le copié, pero ahorita lo vamos a empezar a hablar. Tim, thank you so much for being with us. It is absolutely fantastic talking to you.
Martha, listen, thank you, and it's an honor to be able to speak with you. Thank you, and all of your viewers and listeners.
Absolutely. So I don't know where to start with you, because there's so many things I want to talk about. But first of all, what is amazing about, Project Runway, when we had that, and now Making the Cut, is that most definitely it took out that veil and that mystery out of how fashion is made and what the fashion world is like, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. And Martha, I have to tell you, when Project Runway premiered in 2004, the fashion industry in the US was very divided in its perception of the show. The journalists, the fashion editors, in particular, had nothing but disdain for it. They hated it because they liked that veil of mystery. They liked that glamour. They thought that this is what this should all be about. But the designers loved the show because they could say to their family, watch this show. You'll understand better what it is that I do. And it doesn't look glamorous. It's dirty, it's gritty, it's daunting. And unless you love it, don't do it at all. So we're very proud of that. And with Making the Cut, we're extremely proud to introduce even a more realistic view of the fashion industry, which is it can't just be about a pretty dress. It's really about branding. And how do you become the next great global brand? So for Heidi and for me, Making the Cut is really a dream.
And let me tell you something. So I'm an entrepreneur. I come from a country where entrepreneurship is so important because it's part of our emerging economy. And in Mexico, fashion has had its tremendous struggles, and it's very difficult for a lot of fashion designers that come from Mexico. And in general, Latin America, I mean, we have amazing cases of success like Joana Ortiz and many others. But it's a struggle. And what I love about Making the Cut is that it shows the entrepreneurship side of fashion. It's not only making, a brand in a small store in a small town, but how do you go global in such a global world? And when there's so many opportunities of making something, whatever it is you do, no matter if you're in fashion or not, how do you build a brand that is global?
Yes, it's a very serious and profound question. And I have to say, with Making the Cut, we could not have executed this without the power and strength and creative abilities of Amazon. I mean, they are the most superb partner and the only partner anyone could possibly consider. And when you think about the designers who are on Making the Cut now, season 2, the fact that the winning look from each assignment, from each fashion show is shoppable on Amazon in that moment. I mean, how incredible is that? Just abstractly, but in particular for that designer, because they're receiving profits from those sales as well.
Of course. And I think that another thing that I love, because I believe in, cross cultures and diversity, in, sharing traditions from all over the world and different visions, that in Making the Cut for the first time, we see designers from all parts of the world, which is so refreshing to see, what's been done in Berlin. What are they doing in Kansas or in LA or in England or in Korea?
Yes, no, it's very enlightening. I think it's very inspiring. And it's very real world. This is the world we're living in now. It's not one that's that has little isolated pockets that just exist for themselves. It's about this broad reach and about sharing this information. I'll repeat, I find it to be very inspiring.
So, some emerging designers from all over the world can be listening to this conversation and thinking, what does it take to be a good designer today? I love fashion. I consume fashion nonstop. It is such a competitive market. There's so many brands out there. And you have like the huge big players and the happy mediums and the very small emerging brands. How can you compete in such a competitive world?
Well, there are many factors that figure into this. I think the most important is that as a designer, you need a point of view. You need your work to differentiate you from everybody else.
And that is so not easy.
It's no, none of this is easy. So that is essential. You need to have a larger vision about a brand, about what goes into, where do you put that beautiful dress in terms of a brand or lifestyle brand? How does it fit in with other aspects of your vision? And if you don't have that vision, you need to cultivate that vision. You need to have a wonderful marketing plan, a business plan, and of course they'll be linked. And you need to ask yourself, all right, I'm in a retail environment or I'm online. What are the other brands that are around me? Then you have to throw into that an unconditional passion for doing this. You have to just love it so profoundly that you can't imagine living without it. And then you also have to throw in a tremendous dose of resilience. If obstacles are thrown in your path, if metaphorically people are toppling you over, you need to bounce right back, or else you don't belong in this industry. As you've said so beautifully, it's so incredibly competitive. If you don't have the wherewithal to withstand the obstacles and to be able to share your vision, it's not for you. It just isn't.
If you're not willing to make it work.
Yes, make it work. We all need to.
Make it work no matter what. You know what? I cannot let you go without asking you a few more questions about the normal women and men out there that love fashion and that continuously struggle with looking their best. We spend such amounts of money on clothing, on shoes, on the bags, on the boots. And I always discuss this with my audience and with our friends. We stand in front of the mirror and we're like, oh my God, I spend so much money. And why is it I never look the way I want to look? So what are your 5 golden rules?
Well, I just
fantastic.
I just have to assert though, Martha, you never say that to yourself.
Every day, darling, every day.
You look stupendous. You look fabulous. You're too self-critical.
Thank you. Aren't we all? But what are your 5 golden rules? Because there's something that I heard you say one day.
Was it about silhouette, proportion, and fit?
That I will never forget. You said fitting is everything.
It is.
Coming from me, I'm 5 feet tall. I'm super petite. I'm very curvy. And, I always post pictures of my tailoring the shoulders, the length of the sleeve, where where my waist sits.
Yes.
If the dress is too wide, if the hem is too long. I fit everything I wear.
It's smart.
I always quote you, fitting is everything.
It is. And I have to say about size and shape, we don't know when our clothes fit us well and the proportions are good, and that's what you're describing about raising a hem or cinching a waist. When the proportions are good and the fit is excellent, we can't judge how tall or how petite someone may be. only when you have another item, the scale of which you know, do you really know. So for me, it's all about silhouette, proportion, and fit, and about wearing clothes that you feel confident in. I never will ever make anyone into my dress-up doll. Whenever I'm asked to go shopping with someone or do what people sometimes call a makeover, I call it a make better. It's not about me making these decisions. It's about being a sidekick with an individual man, woman, or someone who wants to dress in a gender neutral way. I want that individual to be pulling items from the racks and the shelves. And then we'll work together about how that individual feels wearing these certain items. Well, fashion is extremely personal, and it's really about the semiotics of clothes. The clothes we wear send a message about how the world perceives us, and what do we want that message to be?
Yeah. So if I were to ask you, like, 4 things that you have to pay attention to when you stand in front of a mirror in a dressing room trying on that outfit.
You have to be critical enough to know what that outfit can potentially become if it is fit properly and the hem is raised. So many people think, I can't do that, it's too expensive. But quite frankly, in my case, my neighborhood dry cleaner does these alterations. I don't have to go to an expensive Madison Avenue tailor, and nor do I want to. So it's about looking at the item and asking yourself, how do I look in this? Are these proportions correct? And if not, can they be fixed? Because sometimes it's just too expensive to fix something. When it comes to color, look at how the color reflects onto your skin. And I call it the neck test, specifically under your chin. If you look radiant and you're glowing, then it's good. If you look sallow, if it's not flattering, then it's not a good color for you. And so much of this has to do with our own coloring, the color of our skin, the color of our hair. Those aspects we will have for our life, probably. Not in my case with my hair, but things that look good on your friend who is a deep, wonderful ebony aren't going to look good on you, Martha. I mean, it's just not going to work the same way. So those elements are important. I mentioned silhouette, proportion, and fit. Fitting, we discussed. Proportion, you need to divide yourself into a series of thirds from your shoulders to your toes and dress accordingly. 1/3 on top, 2/3 on the bottom, 2/3 on top, 1/3 on the bottom, 2/3 on top, and 1/3 on the bottom. An example is a dress. You need to look at where it hits you. For most women, around the knee is the most flattering. When it drops to the calf, it's not flattering. I mean, first of all, the proportions are now off, but also it hits you in the widest part of the leg. And similarly, when it gets too far above the knee, unless you're Heidi Klum, it's generally not a flattering look, and the proportions again are off. So when I talk about 1/3 on top and 2/3 on the bottom, think of a shirt tucked in to a pair of pants. I always say, and I say this to men all the time, don't cut yourself in half. And when men walk around with a shirt tail that's out, they're cut in half. It's not a flattering proportion. Your top looks boxy, your bottom looks boxy. And I believe most of us strive to look as long and lean as possible, and that doesn't do it. I feel the same way about crop pants. Pants that cut off mid calf. It's not a flattering proportion.
Yeah. I absolutely love it. And I also, tell everybody when I'm talking about clothing, to open your heart. I think that humans tend to obsess themselves with things that would never work for me. I could never wear that. That looks lovely on you, but I would never dare. That does not look good on me. And sometimes it's just because you haven't found that item in the proper proportion, because you haven't fitted it well. I'm very small and very petite, and sometimes I use really long pants with some platforms underneath, and people say, I mean, you shouldn't be wearing that because you're so petite, that makes you look, whatever. And I think that as long as you understand proportions,
Yes,
you can get away with murder, no?
I absolutely and totally agree. I mean, in a way, it's an optical illusion, in a manner of speaking. It really is.
Of course. I love your motto, make it work, because I think that applies to everything and every aspect of your life. It's basically, I tend to say people who are successful are people who make it work and make things happen no matter what.
Yes, agreed.
So give me the make it happen. Explain that motto.
I started saying it in my classrooms at Parsons. I was teaching a 6-hour design studio. It was a semester-long class, so 15 weeks, and it's with seniors, so that they're developing basically a thesis. And I had a student who, at week 10, I mean, we're 10 weeks into this term, said, I'm getting rid of all this. I don't like it anymore. It's not working for me. I'm going to start all over again. And I said, you're not starting all over again. You've invested this much time and energy into this. I want you to sit here right now. I want you to offer up a diagnosis of what it is that's going wrong, of what it is you don't like and why. And then I want you to create a prescription for how to make it work, because you will come away from this experience with a much larger body of knowledge about what you can achieve than if you just scrap it and start all over. Then, okay, it's a success, but why? Because you were lucky? So let's look at the problem at hand, and let's offer up that diagnosis of what's wrong and how to make it work. And then when television came along and we had these incredibly constrained time limits, make it work really did become my mantra, because we're not going to go shopping again. So you're not getting any more fabric. You can't recut what you've already cut. You have to make it work.
I remember that episode when you took them to a supermarket.
Yes, season 1.
Like a skirt out of corn leaves.
Yeah, corn husks. It was amazing. It was absolutely, that was episode 1, season 1, Martha. You have an excellent memory. That was 17 years ago.
You have no idea how much of a fan I am. And that's why, because of you, because I'm in New York right now, by the way. So that's why I know M&J Trimmings, I know Mood Fabrics, and all your nooks and crannies.
Well, you look remarkably cool. I was picturing you in Mexico. How hot is it here?
You have no idea, because right now, before we did the interview, the technical person said, I hear a hissing. Is that the AC? Could you turn that off?
No.
Said, it's fine. It's 90 degrees outside. I'm going to melt in front of Tim Gunn, whom I want to look fantastic for.
And you do. Is the air conditioning off now?
Yes, darling, just because of you.
Oh, well, I would never know. You look so cool and so relaxed.
And calm and collected.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Tim, COVID changed the way we live in so many ways. It's been very difficult, especially for the fashion industry, amongst others. How do you think that's going to change fashion, if it changes at all? And I think the online experience.
Fashion has to change as a result of this. I mean, I'm not saying that it must. I just think that as an evolutionary process, we can't pretend that this pandemic didn't happen, and that we weren't quarantined, and that we don't all need to be vaccinated. We just can't pretend any of that. How it will morph and evolve, I think we need a fortune teller with a crystal ball. I don't really know. But certainly people who were not used to online shopping before the pandemic have, out of necessity, embraced it. And I think in many cases, really fallen in love with it. Will bricks and mortar come back? Yes, because fashion people or we wear clothes. We want to feel things. We're tactile and ideally try things on as well. And I feel dreadful for the stores that have closed, including large ones.
Don't take me to Barney's.
I know.
I wanted to kill myself.
Yeah. No, it was
a sad story. And then, my latest experience, like, a couple of years ago, I know that you must remember because we're like sort of from the same generation. Remember Norma Kamali?
Oh, of course.
Super 80s.
Yeah.
And then I went to her store that's on, I think, 56th or 55th. And
57th.
57th and 5th.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I walk in the store ready to buy, and they said, oh no, we just have like, scan codes and, whatever you like, you pick. This is a showroom, and you have everything online. And then after that, when the closing of Barney's happened, I was like so shocked of how everything starts shifting online, and the ability that we have to have today on learning to buy online. Example, Farfetch. Example, Amazon Fashion. The cut.
Yeah. No, it's very, very true. It used to be that the online shopping was marginalized. Now it's mainstream, and Amazon Fashion is constantly raising the bar on products and also on their own private labels, which are, having visited Seattle, where the core of Amazon Fashion is. The private label work is phenomenal. Not only phenomenal, but also affordable. And Amazon Fashion is very concerned with sustainability. They're very conscious of the environment. Anyway, I wish we knew where things would. We should have another conversation in a year.
Yeah, absolutely. So Making the Cut Season 2 is coming out. Do we have a date now?
We do, July 16th.
16 de julio, cuentavientes, en Amazon Prime Video van a poder ver Making the Cut, es la segunda temporada. El ganador se va a llevar $1 million, $1 million for the winner, which is amazing. And the coolest thing ever is that you're going to be able to find the items immediately on Amazon.
Yes.
Tim, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, and Martha, for me too. I feel like we're old pals. I feel as though we've known each other for years.
We could talk for ages, darling, and you would be so proud of my fitting.
I already am.
I send you a big kiss. Take care.
And stay healthy and cool.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.